Before this video ends, one decision could completely change how you see your life. Not tomorrow, not next year, today. Most people don't lose their dreams all at once. They lose them slowly, one wasted hour, one excuse, one I'll start later at a time. They stay busy but stuck, motivated but directionless, hopeful but unchanged. And the scariest part, they don't even realize it's happening. This is not another speech meant to hype you up for 5 minutes and leave you exactly where you are. This is a wake-up call, a mirror, a challenge you won't be able to unsee once you hear it. Because 2026 is coming whether you're ready or not. And the question is simple. Will it be the year you finally choose yourself, or another year you give away to distractions, fear, other people's expectations? In the next few minutes, you're going to hear truths that may feel uncomfortable, but they are the truths that create real change. You'll understand why waiting has cost you more than you think, why motivation has been lying to you, and how taking control of your time can completely reshape your future. Stay until the end, because the final message is not about working harder. It's about taking ownership of your life in a way most people never do. If you're tired of feeling behind, if you know you're capable of more, if something inside you says, "This can't be all there is," then don't click away. This is where choosing yourself begins. Self-responsibility over excuses means accepting that your life is a direct result of your choices, not your circumstances. Most people give their power away without realizing it. They blame their past, their finances, their family, the economy, their age, or bad luck. Excuses feel safe because they remove pressure, but they also remove control. The moment you say something is not your fault, you also say it's not your responsibility to fix it. That mindset keeps people stuck for years. Self-responsibility is uncomfortable because it forces honesty. It requires you to admit that where you are today is largely the outcome of how you've been thinking, acting, and reacting. That truth can sting, but it's also the most empowering realization a person can have. When you choose responsibility, you stop waiting for life to be fair. You stop expecting others to change so you can move forward. You understand that no one owes you motivation, opportunity, or clarity. This doesn't mean ignoring real challenges or pretending obstacles don't exist. It means deciding that obstacles don't get the final say. Two people can face the same situation and end up in completely different places, not because of luck, but because one takes ownership while the other looks for excuses. Responsibility shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's possible. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you start asking, "What can I do about it right now?" Excuses often sound logical. They sound intelligent, they sound reasonable, that's why they're dangerous. They disguise inaction as realism. Self-responsibility cuts through that illusion. It forces action, even imperfect action. It demands that you take the next step before you feel ready. Growth doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from taking ownership of the process. When you accept responsibility, you stop wasting energy on complaining and start investing it into progress. Your confidence increases because you're no longer dependent on external validation or ideal conditions. Choosing self-responsibility also builds discipline. You begin to do what needs to be done regardless of mood or motivation. You learn to keep promises to yourself, and that creates self-trust. Over time, this mindset compounds. Small, responsible decisions turn into better habits, stronger standards, and a clearer sense of direction. The more responsibility you take, the less control fear has over you. You realize that even if things go wrong, you can handle it because you're in charge of your response. That realization alone changes how you show up every single day. Time is the real currency because everything you want in life is purchased with hours, not money. Money is simply stored time. But once time is gone, it can never be recovered. People often treat time casually because it feels unlimited in the moment, yet it is the most limited resource you will ever have. Every opportunity, skill, relationship, and achievement is built minute by minute. When you waste time, you're not just losing an hour, you're losing the future results that hour could have produced. This is why two people with the same income, intelligence, and background can end up in completely different places. One respects time, the other spends it carelessly. Most people don't intentionally waste time, they leak it. Small distractions compound into massive losses. Scrolling for a few minutes turns into hours. Postponing a task turns into weeks of delay. Waiting to feel ready turns into years of stagnation. Time doesn't disappear loudly, it slips away quietly. When you understand that time is your true currency, you stop asking how much something costs in money and start asking how much it costs in life. Every unnecessary meeting, toxic conversation, and meaningless habit carries a hidden price paid in lost potential. Treating time as currency changes how you make decisions. You become more selective with commitments and more protective of your focus. You stop trading high-value hours for low-value activities. Instead of reacting to everything, you begin designing your days with intention. This mindset forces you to prioritize what actually moves your life forward rather than what feels urgent or comfortable. When time becomes valuable, procrastination becomes expensive. Distraction becomes a luxury you can no longer afford. Respecting time also builds urgency without panic. You stop rushing, but you also stop delaying. You realize that waiting has a cost and indecision drains momentum. This awareness pushes you to act sooner, learn faster, and course correct quickly. You no longer need perfect conditions because you understand that progress made today compounds faster than perfection delayed until tomorrow. Small actions done consistently outperform big plans that never start. When you value time, you naturally value yourself more. You stop giving your best hours to things that don't align with your future. You invest time into learning, building, improving, and resting with purpose. Over time, this creates a sense of control and direction because your days are no longer random. The people who win in life are not the busiest or the smartest. They are the ones who spend their time deliberately, knowing that every hour invested wisely shapes who they become and what they're capable of achieving. Choosing yourself requires discipline because motivation is unreliable and emotions change, but discipline remains steady. Many people wait to feel inspired before taking action, not realizing that inspiration usually comes after movement, not before it. Discipline is the ability to act according to long-term values instead of short-term feelings. When you choose yourself, you commit to doing what benefits your future even when it's uncomfortable, boring, or inconvenient. This is where most people fall off, not because the task is too hard, but because consistency demands effort without immediate reward. Discipline creates structure in a world full of distractions. Without it, your time and energy are controlled by impulses, notifications, and moods. With discipline, you decide in advance how you will behave, removing the need to negotiate with yourself every day. This eliminates decision fatigue and builds momentum. Small, disciplined actions repeated daily form systems that run automatically, reducing reliance on willpower. These systems shape habits, and habits shape identity. Over time, you don't just act disciplined, you become disciplined. Choosing yourself through discipline also means learning to delay gratification. It means saying no to what feels good now in order to say yes to what will feel fulfilling later. This could be waking up earlier, sticking to a plan, or walking away from distractions that don't align with your goals. Discipline trains your mind to tolerate discomfort and uncertainty, which is essential for growth. The ability to sit with discomfort without quitting is what separates those who make progress from those who repeatedly start over. Discipline builds self-trust. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. This internal trust becomes a source of confidence that doesn't depend on external validation. When challenges arise, disciplined individuals don't panic or give up. They adjust and continue. They understand that progress is rarely dramatic and hat mastery is built through repetition, not intensity. Over time, discipline simplifies life. Instead of constantly reacting, you operate with intention. You know what needs to be done and you do it regardless of mood. This creates stability and clarity, even in chaotic environments. Choosing yourself through discipline is not about punishment or rigid control. It's about freedom. The freedom that comes from knowing your actions align with your goals, your standards, and the future you are intentionally building. Your environment shapes your future because human behavior is deeply influenced by what surrounds you every day. Most people underestimate how much their thoughts, habits, and standards are molded by what they see, hear, and tolerate. The conversations you listen to, the content you consume, and the people you spend time with quietly program your beliefs. If your environment normalizes complaining, distraction, or mediocrity, those behaviors begin to feel acceptable, even unavoidable. Growth becomes difficult not because you lack ability, but because your surroundings pull you back into old patterns. Environment is not just physical, it is digital and emotional as well. The media you consume influences your mindset more than you realize. Constant exposure to negativity, comparison, or mindless entertainment lowers ambition and shortens attention span. Over time, this creates mental noise that makes focus and clarity feel exhausting. When your environment is chaotic, your mind becomes chaotic. This is why people often feel unmotivated without understanding why. It is not a lack of drive, it is constant mental interference. The people around you play a powerful role in shaping your standards. Humans naturally adapt to the expectations of their social circle. If those around you settle for less, avoid responsibility, or mock ambition, it becomes harder to pursue growth without friction. Not because you are weak, but because social pressure is real. Conversely, being around disciplined, focused, and forward-thinking individuals raises your baseline. Their behavior sets a new normal, making growth feel achievable rather than extreme. Choosing your environment intentionally is an act of self-respect. It means reducing exposure to influences that drain your energy and increasing exposure to those that challenge and inspire you. This doesn't require cutting everyone off. It requires boundaries. It requires awareness of what you allow into your space, your schedule, and your mind. When you change your environment, you reduce the need for constant willpower because the path of least resistance begins to support your goals instead of fighting them. A supportive environment reinforces consistency, it removes friction, and encourages better choices automatically. When your surroundings align with your goals, progress feels lighter and more sustainable. Over time, your identity evolves to match your environment. You begin to think bigger, act mo, read deliberately, and expect more from yourself. This shift doesn't happen through motivation alone. It happens through repeated exposure to standards that demand growth and behaviors that reflect the future you are working toward. Clarity creates speed because when you know exactly what you want, hesitation disappears. Uncertainty is one of the biggest reasons people move slowly or stay stuck. When goals are vague, every decision feels heavy because you're constantly questioning whether you're moving in the right direction. This leads to overthinking, second-guessing, and waiting for reassurance. Clear goals remove mental friction. They give your actions a destination, making it easier to decide what matters and what doesn't. Instead of reacting to everything around you, you begin responding with purpose. Lack of clarity drains energy. When you're unsure about your direction, you waste time exploring too many options or switching paths prematurely. This scattered focus creates exhaustion without progress. Clarity simplifies choices by acting as a filter. Opportunities, distractions, and requests are evaluated based on alignment rather than emotion. When something doesn't match your direction, the answer becomes an automatic no. This protects your time and allows you to move faster toward what truly matters. Clear thinking also accelerates learning. When your goal is defined, you know exactly which skills to build and which information to ignore. This prevents information overload and reduces confusion. Instead of consuming random advice, you seek targeted knowledge that supports your objectives. Progress speeds up because your efforts are concentrated rather than diluted. You stop preparing endlessly and start executing strategically. Clarity increases confidence because it removes internal conflict. Doubt often comes from not knowing whether you're on the right path. When your vision is clear, you may still feel fear, but it no longer controls you. You understand why you're taking action, which gives meaning to discomfort and setbacks. This sense of purpose fuels persistence. You move quickly, not because you're reckless, but because you trust your direction enough to take decisive action. Clear goals also improve focus during challenges. When obstacles arise, clarity helps you adapt instead of quitting. You can adjust tactics without abandoning the mission. This flexibility allows momentum to continue even when conditions change. Speed in life is not about rushing, it's about reducing resistance. Clarity removes unnecessary mental noise, aligns effort, and sharpens priorities. When you know where you're going and why it matters, action becomes natural, decisions become faster, and progress becomes consistent rather than accidental. Action beats intention because results are created by what you do, not by what you plan or promise. Many people confuse thinking about change with actually changing. They set goals, talk about ideas, and visualize success, but stop short of consistent execution. Intention feels productive because it creates the illusion of progress, yet nothing in the real world responds to intention alone. Life rewards movement. Until action is taken, potential remains dormant. The gap between intention and action is where most dreams quietly die. Planning has value, but over-planning often becomes a form of avoidance. People wait for perfect clarity, perfect timing, or perfect confidence before they move. This delay feels responsible, but it is driven by fear of failure or discomfort. Action cuts through that fear. The first step is rarely clean or impressive, but it creates feedback. Feedback builds awareness, and awareness leads to improvement. Without action, there is nothing to adjust, nothing to learn from, and no momentum to build. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. Waiting to feel ready keeps people stuck in a loop of hesitation. When you take action, even small imperfect action, your brain begins to rewire. You prove to yourself that you are capable of moving forward despite uncertainty. Each completed action reduces resistance to the next one. Over time, consistency replaces doubt. This is how ordinary effort compounds into extraordinary results. Execution also reveals truth. Ideas in your head are often incomplete or unrealistic. Action exposes what works and what doesn't. It turns assumptions into data. This allows you to make better decisions faster. Those who act leader and quicker than those who observe. They gain real-world experience that no amount of thinking can replace. Progress becomes practical rather than theoretical. Action shifts identity. When you repeatedly take action, you stop seeing yourself as someone who plans and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. This identity change is powerful. It influences future behavior automatically. You no longer rely on motivation because action becomes part of who you are. Momentum builds when action becomes habitual. Intentions may inspire, but action transforms. The difference between a life imagined and a life lived is the willingness to move forward before certainty, comfort, or approval appear. Choosing yourself in 2026 is not a dramatic moment, it is a daily decision. It is the decision to take responsibility instead of making excuses, to respect your time as the most valuable asset you own, and to build discipline that carries you forward when motivation fades. It is about designing an environment that supports growth, gaining clarity that sharpens your focus, and taking action even when fear and doubt are present. When these choices are repeated consistently, they reshape your identity, your standards, and ultimately your future. The power to change your life has always been in your hands, and 2026 becomes the turning point when you stop waiting and start leading your own life with intention, courage, and control. Good luck and thank you message. Good luck as you step into this new chapter with confidence and responsibility. May you trust yourself, honor your time, and stay committed to the person you are becoming. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for choosing growth over comfort. The future you want begins with the choices you make from this moment forward.